What I want to talk to you about today is something that was really interesting that happened to me a couple weeks ago. I was on an airplane and I was sitting next to this just great couple. The gentleman had just overcome cancer. He was flying from Seattle down to San Diego, where he was recovered. He was glad to leave Seattle, although Seattle has incredible cancer research center and has incredible medical facilities and helps a lot of people fly into Seattle to overcome cancer. I feel like this is a no cancer zone, as my friend Georgie and Banoff would say. No cancer zone. That's what Seattle is. And so we contend for that. We contend and hope that. And so this was a great testimony of someone that was flying back and they were overcoming. But he said something in the middle of our conversation that caught me off guard. And I'm going to read what he said, because as soon as he said it, I said, "What is that?" And he said, "It's a poem." And I said, "What is the poem?" He said, "It's a poem of two dead boys." And I thought this was an interesting poem because when you hear it, I don't know if you ever heard. I'd never heard it. I've been around a substantial amount of time, and I've never heard this. And so it is this. It says, "One bright day in the middle of the night, two dead boys got out to fight. Back to back, they faced each other, drew their swords, and shot each other. A deaf policeman heard the noise and ran to save the two dead boys. And if you don't believe it's true, go ask the blind man. He saw it too." And I said, there's not a single thing in what you said, even though it sounds wonderful because it has a cadence to it, has a rhyme to it, has energy on it. I'm going to read it again, but it literally it makes no sense. It's absolute nonsense. And I wanted to talk to you about the current culture of nonsense, that we're in, because there's so much that's being talked about and it sounds right. But when you think about it, it is actually not right. Let me read this poem. And his wife she laughed at me because the moment he said it, I was like, this is absolute nonsense. This is what I feel like I hear every single day. I feel like this is what I'm getting. This poem is given. This is the culture of this age and this time of the communication that's happening right now is a culture of absolute nonsense. There's so much rhetoric and so much communication has nothing to do. It doesn't bring you to an end. It doesn't bring you to a point. It doesn't bring you to a conclusion. It literally doesn't do anything but leave you sitting there going, what? What did you say? Are you serious? What did you say? I don't even know what you said. And there was a few years ago, there was a political leader that's how I felt after every one of his speeches. I was like, not a few years ago, maybe more than that, but it was a while ago. It was more than 8 years ago. Well, maybe not. Well, it was a while ago. Anyway, I was listening, and I would just go, I'd say to my wife, "Babe, I listened to this and I don't know what he said because I don't know what he said. It's absolute nonsense. It comes to nothing." And so we've been just trained to listen to emptiness, listen to empty words that are randomly put together for the sake of just putting together a sentence. This is what I feel like I hear. And what really got me is I heard that on the plane, and I was like, I feel like I've been robbed with a few minutes here. Not from the gentleman, but this is how I feel if I get any news, if I hear any statements, or I think the way some politicians are talking. I think about what they're doing and the way they're approaching the vaccine or the virus or whatever. I think about it and I'm thinking, it doesn't make any sense. If you really follow this to the end of your thought, if you really follow it to the end, not just coming up with a plan, because a lot of times leaders want to just have plans. I need a plan, I need a strategy, but they don't really follow the plan and the strategy to the conclusion, to the end. What is it going to do? Let's actually see what this is going to do. Is it going to violate? Is it going to be more painful? Is it going to bring a greater distrust? I mean, because sometimes leaders shouldn't do anything if it's going to bring a greater distrust. If there's more distrust, if I don't trust you after I've worked with you, then let me tell you something. The next time you show up, I'm gonna show up. I'm maybe not that, but I'm going to have some kind of reservation to actually connecting with you and talking with you and wanting to spend time with you and wanting to believe what you're bringing because you've lied to me in the past. No, there's a lot of distrust happening, and with the coronavirus, there was that. I did a talk, kind of a rant called the herd virus. The herd virus. It should have been called the herd virus. It's called the herd mentality, right? And so when you think about how a herd works, there's one that leads and everybody follows. And that's what happened when the herd follows because of the fear, because of the intimidation, because they're unaware of what to do. So they follow the first leader in front of them. And so they go and they're following these leaders. That's what we saw in 2020, this herd mentality. Well, now you have everyone following you to a realm. And then we get to a place where we're going, hey, doesn't look like it's the right route. I can actually pay attention that this is not going to actually take us where we want to go. And this is only leading us to a cliff. Well, the blind leading the blind. So we need to know that this is extremely it's sensitive when you have a herd mentality in the earth. Everyone's looking for leadership. Everyone's looking for someone to show me what to do, show us what to do, save us from this. So we're in fear. A person is willing to give up all their rights because they're afraid. So rights, yeah, you need that right here. Just save me. That fear tactic, that ability to get people to move. And then they tell someone else, it's important that you do this. They didn't research, they heard it from someone else. Important that you do this because if you don't do this, it's going to cause a bigger business not to do this. Right. And the fact is it's just leading everyone down this path of destruction. So this is the herd mentality. Then we come into this season of vaccination and whatever political challenges and all these things that are taking place. And the trust is now been broken. Trust is very difficult. Trust is very difficult to give back. Once you break trust, you can only break trust a few times before it actually becomes resentment and anarchy. And so we're on a trajectory that's really dangerous for the whole world. I know for the whole world, because the last time something like this happens, then you see dictators rise. Well, this is what bothers me with what's going on with Afghanistan, because they're like, oh, well, but the fact is, if you give way to one dictator or one tyranny, or, you give way to that one, it emboldens the other younger ones that wanted to do it. And now they're going to rise. So we saw this movement in the 30s. We saw this already, a movement of dictator after dictator, and then coming to the table as dictators, ruling countries, destroying people's lives and being just tyrants in countries, but coming to a dignified table of conversation with nations that don't believe the same. And then we had a Hitler rise. Well, we're on a trend. I wrote the book Experimentalist, not realizing that I'm looking at a trend here. The trend is we're sweeping back into the 30s again. We're sweeping back into that. There's the Great Depression. There's so much. There's so many things that took place, from wars on both the Atlantic and both the Pacific, wars in every direction. Well, it's because of these tyrants that were allowed to take a place. And well, they're not as bad as Al Qaeda, but they were the tyranny before Al Qaeda was to take over. And right. And so there was, anyway, I'm ranting. So you don't know exactly where it's going to, I just go on these. Anyway, I'm headed somewhere. So we're in a very dangerous zone. And so when you start to have leaders that have they're ruling a country on the culture of nonsense, and I try to avoid the news. I get more news than I ever did when I used to watch the news. People are talking about it. I'm on the plane and people are behind me talking about it. People next to me want to talk about it. I'm standing in line and they want to talk to me about the news and they want to talk about it. I'm like, listen, I'm all I hear is nonsense. I hear things that don't make any sense. And so I'm going to read this again. I was headed to tell you why it really bothered me, is because I heard it on the plane. And then I was watching a series that I think I was in the second, or maybe even the first season, but the first episode or second episode. And the protagonist, he quoted this same thing. This was like the same week. And I'm like, okay, for me to hear this twice in 1 week is not normal. This is something completely different. I have to actually do something about this, because it's stirring me now. Now I'm stirred, because I don't believe there's coincidence. I believe that there's always a reason for repetition. Repetition is the mother of skill. So if it's coming at me more than once, then God's trying to get my attention on something. He wants me to pay attention. I'm gonna rant on something. I already have my rant next week because it was the same thing. The repetition gets my attention, then it gets me stirred, and then I have to say, let's pay attention. And so this is what we're doing. It says here, it says, so he in this series, The Punisher, which I want to just see punishment happen. He says this. One bright day in the middle of the night, two dead boys got up to fight. Back to back, they faced each other, drew their swords, and shot each other. A deaf policeman heard the noise and ran to save the two dead boys. And if you don't believe it's true, go ask the blind man. He saw it too. Now, when the Punisher said this, and you guys say, you watch the Punisher? Well, I did this week, and I'll probably watch it more because I really like it. And anyway, so when he read it, when he said it, his son response was like, that doesn't make any sense. The daughter, I think she said, I like it. Well, the funny thing is, because if you're feely, it rolls. It has a rhyme to it. Now, just because something has a rhyme to it and it feels good and it sounds good doesn't mean it's right. You have to think deeper about it. What is this really going to do to our society? And as I close here, as I begin to close, I went up to the tip here. What we need to understand about leadership is not supposed to just give us random thought. Leadership is not supposed to give us random ideas and ideologies. You as a leader, I'm talking to business leaders, I'm talking to entrepreneurs, I'm talking to leaders of ministries and businesses and families. You as a leader are not supposed to give random statements, random thoughts that don't bring the listener to a conclusion. As a leader, everyone needs to have a conclusion, a complete outcome of where we're headed. Where are we headed? How are we going to get there? How are we going to safeguard ourselves from getting there? What's going to keep us from falling off the cliff as we head there? What's going to keep us from killing ourselves as we head there? What's going to keep someone from taking, or someone rising up because of rebellion against it? How are we going to get everyone on the same page? There's a lot of conclusions that need to happen for a leader to really be a leader. Otherwise, you're someone that's just making up stuff. You're making up plans. You're hoping and you're rolling the dice. I want to tell you as leaders, this is what my conclusion of my futurist rant. We need leadership right now at the grassroots level. We need you to run for office in your local areas. We need you to take on responsibilities that you wouldn't take on before. We need you not to shuck responsibilities in your home and your family. Take on family responsibilities. If you're a young person in the family, see what's happening in the larger scale. Don't just be in the macro level of what's going on in your family. Take on a larger responsibility. This is what we need. When we can't find leadership out there, leadership immediately has to become grassroots. And you're going to have to become a grassroots movement of leaders, people who are going to take on responsibility. I'm not talking about rebellion. I'm talking about responsibility, making sure that the people and the person next to you and the people that are in your sphere of influence are taken care of, that you think deeply for them. You think deeply with them. You think deeply about their future and where you want to go. We need leaders that bring us to conclusions. Right now, there's a lot of rhetoric. Rhetoric has since media and especially social media has caused rhetoric to be the thing that we pay attention to. Rhetoric can be something that you're speaking and literally doesn't bring you to a conclusion. Every time you listen to something, listening to me, listening to anyone else, what is the concluded thought? What are we concluding here? What's the 1 + 1 = 2? Years ago, I noticed that there was something that was happening with our children, and it was based upon the kind of television shows that they were getting. Not that, my parents are like, oh, I don't want my kids to watch that because they have this kind of thing. But I look at it and what kind of mind-bending things it doing to our children? Not just homosexual, but I'm thinking, what kind of mind-bending thing is it doing? Because there's a lot of people that's their thing. They're talking about homosexuals. They're talking about this. Well, and that's that. If that's the most obvious thing you can see, then go with it. Whatever. That's your challenge. But there are more obvious things, or I should say more unseen things that are taking place. And I'm not against television. I like I like I like television. I do. I own a TV company, a TV channel, a TV station. We have a streaming channel and we have on air channel. So I'm into it. But the fact is that I noticed that there was something that felt was the most dangerous, not just girlfriend, boyfriend, dating, that kind of stuff. A lot of parents, Christians, right, I understand that. But I was concerned with the fact that the season of random was now being celebrated and was being introduced to a generation that didn't know how to have conclusions. All of the conclusions would be based upon whatever they take in. That was about 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I saw this about 15 years ago. I saw this introduction of cartoons that were just random. They just had random things. They were absolute random. You kind of could figure out why the Roadrunner was running from, was running from the wolf. I mean, that made sense. And you could actually go, that makes sense that you run. Please run. Get away from it. Run, run, run. But the thing that was really weird was when it became very random. Everything was just, we choose it, we do it. It was just random. That was, and I thought to myself, this is going to be very dangerous, because Sesame Street taught children certain things. 1, Count Dracula. We knew every time. 1, 2, 3. Those things are not random. We kind of saw a little bit of how to interact with people, with friends, and how to have friends and how to rely on friends. Those were kind of Tinky Winky and some random kind of running around the side of a hill. I mean, it's just random. I don't even know they had the sound, but Yo Gabba Gabba. I mean, there was some kind of life things. Those are not the worst ones, but I'm not even here to talk about that. But I'm talking about there was an introduction of random, and when random was released into the minds of developing children, it set us up to be in a culture of nonsense, where nothing has to make sense. It is what you feel. It is what you think. What is truth? That's the same thing that Caesar was asking. What is truth? That was in a season where truth was whatever you felt. Truth was whatever you decided. Truth was, now we're in that season. We're in that time, that era of random. What is truth? And I want to tell you that we need to truth always brings you to a conclusion. I need you to think about this word. I know it's a simple word, and you think you know what I'm, and I think I know what I'm saying, but I mean, really, not until you pay attention. Every conversation needs to come to a conclusion, to a concluded thought. It needs to come to, and can I tell you what's not a concluded thought? Let me tell you what's not a concluded thought. I will agree to disagree. That's not a concluded thought. That's a concluded thought that you say, I disagree. Now that's when you conclude. I disagree. I don't agree with you. Now that's a conclusion. We now know where you stand. I know where you stand. You know where I stand. We don't agree. Well, that's okay. That's fine until we have another conversation, or until I take on another level of leadership, or until whatever it may be. I need to know that as a leader, as you as a leader, me as a leader, us as leaders, we are bringing people to conclusions. We're bringing people to a thought that was well prepared, well thought out, and then we lock it into, this is the conclusion. That's what Winston Churchill did. That's what great leaders in the past, whereas Nelson Mandela brought his people to a conclusion. Okay, so we're going to build a country. We're going to build a nation together. We're not going to just have blacks and whites. We're going to conclusion. Boom. We're going to bring it all together. We're going to do it. Now it's you have to get everybody on the same page. It becomes very difficult, but it was an instruction that brought it to a very finite, concluded position. And so I want to encourage you, in your home, be conclusive. In your business, come to a conclusion. Come to a conclusion. Right now, there's people come to a conclusion. I'll never come out of this trial, so I'm leaving. I'm never going to do this, so that's not leadership. That's not leadership. That's abandonment. We don't want to abandon. We have a lot of abandonment going on. That's what you get when it's random. You don't actually know how to get to your next level because you've never been able to put puzzle pieces together. I want you to learn how to put puzzles together. I challenged a family who, their child is has a development. And now some people would say a child with, Asperger's or autism or some kind of, development challenge is a bad thing. When I feel like that's a child that sees the world differently, and there's gifts there, there's talents, there's ability there. So the conclusion is not, don't treat the child like it's a challenged, sick child. Treat the child as someone that is intelligent, high functioning in sensory, right? Sensory, because awareness, social awareness, and being aware is everyone's in this modern day is kind of challenged. So you have to then help this child figure out, if I do that, what does it do? The cause and effect, that's conclusions, right? If you help the child come to a conclusion, then you help the child become a better thinker and interact with the world. There's so many deficiencies and dysfunctional families that we don't actually need to have a neurological handicap in order to be, dysfunctional, right? So everyone needs to work on getting to a place of conclusion. 1 + 1 = 2. Get a puzzle. I like puzzles. I like puzzle games. I like conclusions. I like video games. I like those things because I'm always going for the conclusion. I'm always looking to finish. I'm looking for the route. I like things. I like things like that. A lot of people are like, oh, no, I like things like, because it's always working on my mind. It's always working on my brain. So whatever you do, help people find the conclusion and come to a conclusion. Don't be random. Don't embrace random. Don't accept random. This is the culture of nonsense, is a random culture. So I encourage you. This is Tracy Armstrong, your Barrier Buster, your futurist ranter today. I want to encourage you, go for leadership. Be a leader. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want any responsibility. I know. Neither did I. But the fact is if you don't show up, no one will. And if you treat life that way, if I don't show up, no one will. Well, I'm just going to go do what everyone else is doing. That's fine. But if you have something that drops in you that's a little bit different than what other people are doing, figure it out, work it out, strategize it, structure it, build the vision, come to a conclusion, and lead the charge. Let's go. Let's make it happen. America is going to be a powerful place. We're not going to lose America. We're not going to lose this world. Oh, there's a lot of dreamers, a lot of people who are inventors, innovative. We're not going to lose. We're going to win. This is the best. The best is truly, as a friend says, the best is truly yet to come. I say, yes, I agree. But I felt like there was important for me to start saying the best is now. And so you and I, let's take on the now. The best is right now. And yes, the best is yet to come. Let's do that. Hey, I'm going to be back here next week, 12 o'clock. Tell some friends. I'm going to try to let people know. I just kind of jumped on today because I wanted to work on and see how this worked and jump on there. But I want to encourage you. Let's build great enterprise. Let's build great companies, great families. Let's make this world strong. Subscribe to my new channel. My new channel. I have a Barrier Buster channel, which is fun. And so subscribe to that. It's a Barrier Buster YouTube channel. I've never had one of those before. So we're going to put this, and I'm going to stream this directly to YouTube so you can share it with friends, family, people you think would love a little bit of a rant. I also have a business accelerator for those who want to grow in their business, in their income and their increase. And we do that every Saturday. If you want to know more information of that, you can go to influencersaccelerator.global and learn more about that. So let's jump back in next week. It's going to be, 20, 30 minutes at max. And I went off a little bit today. So it was a little bit, I think it's like 30 minutes. So anyway, glad to be with you. Looking forward to having more conversation, more rant times with you. This is Tracy Armstrong, your Barrier Buster, signing off.